Hello, dear friends. Hello, humans. Max here. Today we move on our amazing story of awakening with the following chapter, chapter 11.1, the extraterrestrial perspective. What do we really know? Now, this is an interesting one indeed because anybody who is a fan of little green men and gray aliens will understand exactly what I'm talking about. And it is a big, big topic that we need to touch upon. So, without further ado, let's get into it. As usual, please do find my Amazon page where the book is located, and all the documentaries and all the information you need are inside in the hyperlinks. Please follow me on YouTube, follow me on Rumble, and follow me on Brighteon. Your support is highly appreciated. Please do like and subscribe. Now, we all live within the boundaries of our own perceived reality. Most of it is fake and a trickery for our mind, as I have abundantly demonstrated to you already. It's becoming harder and harder to discern reality from computer graphic images and CGI, especially in today's internet age where information is so easily accessible. So is the fakery. NASA has shown us that fact abundantly with all their fakery and photoshopping creations. Yes, it's all a scam and a hoax. We know that. However, if you look closer, there are situations all around us that are absolutely real, even though they appear to be unexplainable. You need to see them in person to believe. Well, I'm happy to announce that I am one of those persons. I have seen something that defies reason and logic. I have seen in person what can only be described as a UFO or a UAP, unidentified aerial phenomenon. So let me start by telling you that story briefly so you can understand why I can make certain statements both in previous chapters as well as going forward. It was the year 1996, and I was sitting with a good friend of mine on a stone pier in Bellagio, Italy, where I used to live, with a six-pack of beer. That we had not opened yet. I need to emphasize that. It was a clear starry night, and it was summer, just after midnight. The lake was smooth as oil and with no wind whatsoever. It was the perfect night, completely quiet. In the middle of the lake, just east of us, appeared an orange orb-shaped object. I would estimate it around 30 meters in diameter. It was quite large. It hovered some 5–10 meters above the water's surface and moving in a circular fashion, as if it was investigating something. This lasted for some 30–45 seconds maybe. Then it flew off straight up in the sky, so fast that only a streak of orange could be seen around a second or two. It was faster than anything I've ever seen. Now, being the nerd I am, I will actually show you the exact positioning on a map. This is as fresh as in my mind as if it happened yesterday. Here you see on your left of the screen, that's a map of Lake Como, where I used to live. Switzerland is on the left. The peninsula in the center of the lake, of the two legs, so to speak, is Bellagio, where I used to live. And we were sitting in the top of the peninsula on this little pier going out called Punta Spartivento. So we were sitting there, my location is indicated, and the orb was in the middle of the lake to our east. Now, one might say, well, Max, you imagined it. It was an illusion. I was drunk, whatever. But when it happened, I turned over to my friend and I asked him if he saw what I saw. And he confirmed, just as bewildered as I was. Now, this was the moment that changed my life forever. I'm not ashamed to admit it. When something like this happens to a human being, and there's no way to deny it or rationalize it, one starts to wonder and analyze the situation, and after some time, I reached the following conclusion. And I think it's the correct assumption. It goes like this. If what I saw was real, then it's either one of two things. Number one, it was an object from outer space, and we were indeed being visited by extraterrestrials, which obviously is the coolest thing ever, right? It moved at speeds and hovered silently, so it's obviously powered by technology far beyond anything we could possibly have available. So that was the rational conclusion to make at the time. It was an extraterrestrial craft. Option number two, it was man-made, which in 1996 for me was really hard to accept. I was in my early 20s and was only indoctrinated with the usual Hollywood propaganda regarding space, Star Wars and all that stuff. And Star Wars was awesome until Disney bought the entire enterprise and then turned it into a woke shitshow it is today. I could not imagine that humankind could have access to any of that technology, so I dismissed it as a possibility at the time. Most people today would reach the same conclusions, not knowing what I know now. I now understand that what I saw could very well have been a man-made object, and I will now describe to you how I think that might be the case. Now I will show you a small little video here of exactly the same type of orb, same size, shape and color. Mine was slightly more orange, but it's a very, very good match. And I'm happy I found this video on the internet some time ago because it is exactly what I saw. So let me play you this first. Well, there you have it. Sorry. That's the orb I saw. It was absolutely spectacular to watch. And still today, I can't explain. I can't explain what I saw. Now, I have described all of this in order to make you aware of the effect of what an event like this has on a person. If what I saw was real, and it was, because I know what I saw, then this opens up the mind to a multitude of possibilities. Whether it's man-made or not does not really make any difference at this point. If this thing moves like that, and it was real, I can be absolutely sure that this technology exists and is available. It opens up the mind to a multitude of possibilities and makes all of them real and possible. I have now been down this rabbit hole ever since, culminating in this book that I wrote and that I'm reading out of today. This day was my true awakening, and I have never looked back since. I've been told that I'm a tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist all my life, but it doesn't affect me. I know what I saw, and they did not. If they did, and had two neurons to rub together, they would reach exactly the same conclusions as I have. So let us get into this mysterious issue and see what we can gather together, and hopefully it will assist you in your personal journey into the unknown that we're all experiencing as a collective. Let us begin by discussing man-made craft. I will describe to you what I have learned so far. I described in the previous chapters about the Nazi technology, right? Now you understand why I can so easily go there after learning what I have learned in 1996. Project Paperclip allowed 1,600 Nazis access to the underbelly of the US military development machine. In early July 1946, a craft crash-landed in Roswell, New Mexico. This is called the Roswell incident. A UFO crashed on a farm, military was alerted, and sealed off the entire area. The craft was saucer-shaped, and it was found with two humanoid organisms inside. One was dead, and the other one was still alive, but badly injured. There was much talking about this in the area. Newspaper wrote about it across the country for a few days until it just stopped. They covered it all up and got some clown from the military to come on interviews and state that it was just a weather balloon. Since that time, we have had weather balloon incidents all over the place. It's actually become an inside joke in the UFO community. As you can see here, absolutely hilarious. USAF-4 aircraft in identification chart. So yeah, all these UFOs basically, yeah, they're all weather balloons. Nothing to see here. Move along. So a year later, in 1947, the CIA was established. Previously it was running under the name OSS, as we mentioned before, but it was dissolved after the war. The CIA has ever since been deeply involved with the UFO issue and has been running cover for the Khazarian mafia deep state ever since. Not only in UFO matters, but as an overarching dark institution hiding behind the name, but completely in the dark. Drugs, weapons, human trafficking, you name it, they control it. The entire drug trade in the world, including the famous Pablo Escobar, I might add, worked and were allegedly financed by the CIA. CIA is today the military branch of the Khazarian mafia and is not accountable to anyone. In this regard, let me play you this very important clip of Daniel Inouye, what he had to say regarding this shadow government in faraway 1987. So listen to this.
Obviously, these hearings have been about issues much more profound than who did what or knew what in the Iran-Contra affair. They have presented two visions of government, much as the Constitutional Convention was presented with different views of the relationship between government and its citizens 200 years ago. One vision was described in the testimony of Admiral Poindexter, Lieutenant Colonel North, General Secord, and Mr. Hakim, that of a secret government directed principally by NSC staffers, accountable to not a single elected official, including apparently the President himself. A shadowy government with its own Air Force, its own Navy, its own fundraising mechanism, and the ability to pursue its own ideas of the national interest, free from all checks and balances, and free from the law itself. It is an elitist vision of government that trusts no one, not the people, not the Congress, and not the cabinet. It is a vision of a government operated by persons convinced they have a monopoly on truth. Albert Hakim, a businessman who admitted he was in it for the money, could boast to us that he was more competent to manage the Iran initiative than the Secretary of State. Richard Secord could tell us he was more capable of running intelligence activities than the CIA. Oliver North could describe with enthusiasm Director Casey's plan for a private off-the-shelf organization that would conduct covert operations forbidden to the CIA with funds generated from the sale of U.S. arms. John Poindexter could say that this all sounded like a good idea, maintained that Congress had no meaningful role in foreign policy, and act secure in the belief that the President would have approved the diversion of funds. I believe these hearings will be remembered longest, not for the facts they elicited, but for the extraordinary and extraordinarily frightening views of government they exposed. Fortunately, our hearings were able to present another vision of government, one that is accountable to the people, a legitimate, not secret government in which trust is the coin of the realm, as Secretary of State George Shultz said. This is the balanced government that our founding fathers contemplated in our Constitution. In describing their motives for riding roughshod over the constitutional restraints built into our form of government, Admiral Poindexter and Lieutenant Colonel North used almost the identical words. "This is a dangerous world," they said. That, my fellow citizens, is an excuse for autocracy, not for policy. Because no times were more dangerous than when our country was born, when revolution was our midwife. Our system of government has withstood the tests and tensions of civil conflict, depression, and 2 world wars, times hardly less challenging than our own present. Indeed, as our greatest military leaders such as Washington, Marshall, and Eisenhower have recognized, our form of government is what gives us strength. It must be safeguarded, particularly when times are dangerous and the temptation to arrogate power is the greatest. Vigilance abroad does not require us to abandon our ideals or rule of law at home. On the contrary, without our principles and without our ideals, we have little that is special or worthy to defend. History records that almost 200 years ago, in September of 1787, as the Constitutional Convention was finishing its business, a bystander asked Benjamin Franklin, "Well, Doctor, what have we got? A republic or a monarchy?" And Dr. Franklin replied, "A republic, if you can keep it." By allowing the sunlight on this unseemly affair, and by showing what happens when foreign policy is conceived and executed by cabal and not by lawful consensus, we have tried to make our contribution to keeping it. My fellow Americans, out of this experience, may we all better understand and appreciate our Constitution, strive harder to preserve it, and make a fresh start at restoring the trust between the branches of government. For in America, as 200 years ago, the people still rule. With that, these hearings stand recessed until further call.
So, Daniel Ainohue is his name. This was a congressional hearing, so it's on the record. What he speaks of is this breakaway civilization that we call the Khazarian mafia. They knew it back then, and some people, some brave patriots actually, had been fighting these people all along. But what he describes here is exactly what I'm talking about in this chapter. You see, a group was formed early on called Majestic 12, a breakaway organization run by the CIA and the paperclip Nazis that started developing alien technology in underground military bases all over the US territory at the time. The most famous one was Groom Lake, Nevada, also called Area 51. Much has been said about this place, and I understand that most of it is actually true. The most famous whistleblower that ever came out of this secret black hole was Bob Lazar, which I will show to you here. This is Mr. Bob Lazar, national treasure and hero. He described in detail how he was working daily on retro-engineering alien technology propulsion systems. Absolutely fascinating stuff for a nerd like me. Now, there was another Nazi in particular that keeps turning up in my research, and he was a very, very nasty piece of work. A complete psychopath, it seems. His name was Arthur Rudolph, and you can see him on your screen right here. This man will be mentioned in further chapters because he plays an interesting role, and a very important one, in the story going ahead. Now, he was brought over under Project Paperclip but while von Braun, that we mentioned, was stationed at NASA, Rudolph was involved with the more exotic projects regarding retro-engineered crafts from downed alien ships. He keeps showing up in various testimonies, so he was surely deeply involved in such activities. Now this group, Majestic 12, became so powerful and secretive that the politicians in Washington were getting anxious and started asking questions to their generals and others, and were told that they were not on a need-to-know basis. Even the president himself was excluded. There now existed more than 34 levels of secrecy above the president, cosmic being the highest. A man called Stephen Greer, who is a superhero of mine, he explains this very well in the clip I'm about to show you. And note how he mentions Grandpa Bush. Did I not mention that family before? Yes, they are as deep in as can be. So let me play you this clip for you now, and I'll see.
So can the government keep a secret this big? One of the biggest weapons in the intelligence community's arsenal is our general belief that the US government couldn't possibly keep a secret this big from the American public. But the existence of the National Reconnaissance Office remained secret for over 30 years. The mere existence of the NSA, jokingly referred to as no such agency, was kept secret until it grew so large that it was quite conspicuous. And those working in the Manhattan Project developing the atom bomb were told that any secrets that they disclose would result in 10 years in prison, or an equivalent of a $100,000 fine. Only when the weapons were used at Hiroshima and Nagasaki did the government disclose what they were.
Of all things to keep secret, the fact that there is this bountiful option that we have of reaching out into the stars and being friendly neighbors with other civilizations and sharing information, sharing resources, and sharing knowledge and sharing spiritual insights and values. To suppress that information and to conceal it is part of the efforts of a national security state that is threatened by that reality. And so that this is one of the ultimate secrets that needs to be exposed.
We have indeed been contacted, perhaps even visited, by extraterrestrial beings. And the US government, in collusion with the other national powers of the Earth, is determined to keep this information from the general public. Victor Marchetti, former special assistant to the executive director of the CIA.
And in this document from the Canadian government, the matter is the most highly classified subject in the United States government, rating higher than the H-bomb. That was the most top secret doomsday weapon at the time in development. And the second item, B, flying saucers exist, period. C, their modus operandi is unknown, but concentrated effort is being made by a small group headed by Dr. Vannevar Bush. And then D, the entire matter is considered by the United States authorities to be of tremendous significance. What is more sensitive than the development of the hydrogen bomb prior to its detonation? The UFO issue. A priori, therefore, the entire subject has been managed in a way from the 40s onward with extraordinary secrecy around it. The event at Roswell, because it resulted in the acquisition of materiel that could be studied, it created a sea change in the whole national security organization, because within weeks of that event, the CIA was formed. Within weeks, there was the formation of the Air Force, which was split off from the Army Air Force. It also led, however, the development of unacknowledged special access projects, which is why Eisenhower, even though he knew about the subject on a fairly deep level, had completely lost control of it by 1961 when he left office.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
You know, because you think of generals and you think of conservatives and Republicans as being very pro military and business. But he's talking about the illegal part of it. He's not talking about the conventional military.
But it's now the military-industrial intelligence complex that are moving bureaucratically toward establishing dominion and control over the entire democratic process in the country, and that they're waging war, invading the Middle Eastern oil fields and occupying the oil fields, attempting to establish what they themselves refer to as full spectrum dominance.
But we're going to smoke them out.
And so the public has to understand there became to be this bifurcation, this separation between legitimate national security and military operations and the deep black programs that are unacknowledged. We're talking about the black budget, the deep black, super secret, unacknowledged budget that runs in the $100 to $200 billion a year. I'm being conservative.
My 03 budget calls for more than $48 billion in new defense spending.
More money for the Pentagon when its own auditors admit the military cannot account for 25% of what it already spends.
According to some estimates, we cannot track $2.3 trillion in transactions.
2.3 trillion with a T. That's $8,000 for every man, woman, and child in America.
We're spending well over $100 million per day on classified programs that have no congressional oversight, no public scrutiny. There's no monitor of these programs. A number of these programs go directly through Congress, totally. When you start going through these documents, these programs start dropping off the radar screen. These are all classified programs within the defense budget, but they don't supply any technical information on the program.
And if people think that the Congress and the president actually have a handle on this, they're gravely mistaken. They do not. This is where we get into the structure of secrecy.
The structure of secrecy is complex and multifaceted. We've been led to believe that we live in a mostly transparent democracy, with the president at the top of the intelligence food chain, a true commander-in-chief. The reality, however, is much different.
There's secrecy that is legal, and unfortunately, where Edward Snowden made his mistake was by disclosing secrets, no matter how inappropriate it might have been that they were going on, that were being managed legally that the president and Congress and the intelligence committees knew about.
A traitor to the United States.
On the other hand, there's secrecy that is illegal. And these are the unacknowledged special access projects, USAPs, USAP for short.
What they've done is they've formed this alliance among themselves of the industry that makes money by building war machines, the military that uses the war machines and justifies them, and then the intelligence community that is not really an intelligence community, it's a covert operations community, armed with military weapons and nuclear weapons, in that they're trying to push the boundaries now of establishing their dominion and full spectrum dominance over the planet.
And in this document, first document that's on the briefing for President Obama's brief we put together that we gave to John Podesta, this document lists the compartmented operations out of the Nellis facility, what the public wrongly calls Area 51. I gave this document to the head of intelligence for the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Admiral Tom Wilson. Now this is J2. This is the guy who puts the intelligence briefings together for the Joint Chiefs of Staff of the United States of America. And he got hold of one of these compartments and he said, "Hello, I'm Admiral Tom Wilson. I want to be read into or briefed on this project." They said, "Yes, sir, we know who you are, and you don't have a need to know. You don't have a need to know." The head of intelligence for the Joint Chiefs of Staff. So this is where the military have been victims of the secrecy, because there are many generals and admirals and very good officers I've met with who have enormous responsibility that everyone, if you polled 1,000 people on the street, I think every single person would say something this sensitive they would know about, and if they didn't have knowledge about it, if they asked about it, they will be told. That is not true.
There are very clear efforts to engage in covert programs and to keep the knowledge of those programs away from people, even in positions of constitutional authority.
Dick Cheney, he would have a need to know. They call him Darth Cheney. We're talking about people way up in the defense industry, people who are running the skunk works, people like Ben Rich, like Kelly Johnson.
So these unacknowledged special access projects do not care what your rank and position is. They care about one thing. Will you go along with their agenda? And this is exactly what happened when I met with Lord Hill Norton.
Since my name has become connected with UFO matters in quite a big way in this country, I have frequently been asked by a person of my background, a former chief of the defense staff, a former chairman of the NATO military committee, what the reasons may be for governments wishing to cover up the facts about UFOs. That, I believe, is because governments fear that if they did disclose those facts, people would panic.
The only thing he really wanted to know was, I was head of the Ministry of Defense, head of the Military Committee for NATO, head of MI5, MI6. Why wouldn't they have told me? And I said, well, sir, with all due respect, what would you have done if you'd found out that there was a project that was illegal, engaged in assassinations, that was keeping from not only our leaders and our constitutionally required oversight, technologies and information that would enable us to have a whole new civilization on this planet without pollution or dependency on Mideast oil or what have you. And he says, I wouldn't have stood for it for a bloody minute. And he was just in a rage about it. I said, that's why they didn't tell you.
Interesting stuff, right? Now, the amount of evidence on this issue is incredible. We are at a point where there cannot be any doubt that all of this is real. Not only because I say so, but because there's a massive amount of people involved in disclosing such things for the benefit of humanity. People are being disappeared and suicided over and over for this kind of information. In 2001, Stephen Greer did something absolutely remarkable. He joined all his whistleblowers to a disclosure event at the Press Club in Washington, D.C., of all places. They were filmed disclosing their knowledge of these secret programs and other secrets. In attendance were many senators and congresspersons who walked away in absolute awe. I will make available the full video for you to download in the book. It's all there available for you. This was basically a kick in the gut to the entire secrecy movement, and we owe Dr. Greer a great debt of gratitude for his efforts to disclose this information to the public. He has been on this issue ever since and is one of the most informed and outspoken researchers on this matter in the world. A highly respected individual indeed. Now, this event was held in May 2001. And it was expected to awaken the world to what was going on. Until September 11, that is, that same year, when something else happened that sucked all the air out of the issue, and they all went chasing Arabs in the Middle East instead. I'm not saying that these events are connected, but it does make me wonder though. Let me show you here a small introduction about the event itself, and then we'll take it from there. Here we go.
I'm going to introduce a man who says there are more things between heaven and hell than any of us have accepted. And I have the witnesses and the documents to prove it. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Stephen Greer.
On May 9th, 2001, 20 military, government, and corporate witnesses held a press conference in Washington, D.C.
And these are folks who have been involved in so-called black budget or covert unacknowledged projects.
They described a decades-long conspiracy to cover up extraterrestrial visitation to Earth.
These unacknowledged special access projects are taking in at least $40 to $80 billion per year.
And the study of extraterrestrial technology in covert military programs.
And they are sitting on technologies that can change the world forever.
This technology would liberate Earth from fossil fuels, environmental devastation, and poverty in a single generation.
I didn't believe in UFOs until London Control called us in the winter of 1962 and asked us, would we chase one?
Their testimony would make history.
I said, well, you're going to tell the public about it. And he says, no, we don't tell the public about this. It would panic the public.
This was the most watched event in the history of the National Press Club.
We actually did recoveries of crashed saucers. There were bodies that were involved with some of these crashes, also some were alive.
It marks the beginning of the global disclosure movement.
These discs were hovering off the floor without any visible means of support. They were referred to as alien reproduction vehicles.
15 years later, Dr. Stephen Greer opened his archives of documents and interviews.
This information was refused to the President of the United States by the Director of Central Intelligence, George Bush Sr.
They reveal the true story of the secrecy and of disclosure.
There is no evidence, I wish to emphasize, that these life forms from elsewhere are hostile towards us. But there is a great deal of evidence that they are concerned with our hostility.
This is that story.
Dr. Greer has so far produced 3 documentaries on this topic, and I have provided all of them in the book for download for you all. But you can get them only from the book, unless you find them yourselves, of course. What I described in the previous chapter 10.1, when we spoke about time and matter, is not pseudoscience or science fiction. I spoke about zero-point energy. I spoke about medbeds and replicators. This is all as real as can be, and as I hope you understand at this point. All these technologies does exist, and they have existed for some time. Dr. Greer is fighting the Khazarian mafia controllers to release and disclose this information to humanity, so we can finally get back on track in the development of humankind, the way it was already meant to be. Now just look at what we already know. I will show you on the screen now. There are so many UFO sightings that each single shape actually has their own code. This is only 80 of them. There is many, many more. Okay, so we do know they exist. We are so sure they exist, we even have a classification for them. Now this one is a bit of a joke, but it demonstrates how many different life forms might be out there for us to meet. Some good, some bad, I suppose. We do not know, do we? We have testimonials like this, which I find extremely interesting. This is Ben Rich, the second director of Lockheed Skunk Works. Now, what is a skunk work? Skunk works are deep, dark projects in military industrial companies, and Lockheed is one of them. He stated this in 1993 at the alumni speech at UCLA. We already have the means to travel among the stars, but these technologies are locked up in black projects, and it would take an act of God to ever get them out to benefit humanity. Anything you can imagine, we already know how to do. This same guy had another statement, I don't know what year, but he said, we have the technology to bring ET home. What does that tell you? Right? So then you go and look at this little patch here, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, specifically aviation. Why is there a UFO on this patch down in the left corner? Are they mocking us? I kind of think they are. What do you think? So I think I've made myself clear, as in short as possible manner, to introduce you to this topic on man-made craft. Now let us discuss why this is so damn important to us. You must understand that we're looking at a lost century of technological development here. Our brightest minds has been seized and worked underground for decades, developing technologies that would have freed the planet from literal slavery, eliminated pollution, expanded lifespans, and catapulted us into the discovery of new lands. Now, I'm not talking space necessarily, as I am a strong advocate that it doesn't even exist, but the lands beyond the ice wall for sure. If the dome is real, these craft can penetrate it with ease, and that's how they came here in the first place. In my view, this technology is our way out. Let me play you a little clip in this regard again, and I'll see you on the other side.
We have lost 100 years of evolution on planet Earth. A true lost century. Huge progress was made in the 1920s as Nikola Tesla developed energy generation technologies that could power the Earth, drawing endless free energy from the so-called empty space around us.
So-called empty space isn't really empty at all. It's actually full of energy. So instead of being like kind of a quiet, empty lake, it's more like the froth at the base of a waterfall or something.
The amount of energy in a cubic meter of space-time was 10 to the 26th power. It's a 10 with 26 zeros behind it, joules per cubic meter. And that's enough energy, even in a coffee cup, to boil all the oceans of the Earth completely away into steam.
The acronym Unidentified Flying Object is a deliberately obfuscating term. And what it really is an alternative energy and propulsion system.
They had a piece of, they thought was plexiglass, a rectangular piece of plexiglass, for years before they figured out it was the energy device for the craft. And it was connected in such a manner that this device could power a very small watch up to a city. Power was determined by what the demand on it was. And so each craft had one of these.
The implications of free energy go far beyond keeping the lights on in your home or running your car without gasoline. Most of the cost of making anything, from growing food to constructing a skyscraper, is the energy used to mine the raw materials out of the ground. Ship, process, ship again, package, and deliver. A free energy society in which the cost of manufacturing and agriculture move towards zero would mean endless abundance for everyone on Earth.
They already exist. It's not like they even have to be invented. You and I, the taxpayers, have already paid trillions of dollars, literally, in super secret black budget funding to develop these systems.
This is the society we could have had a century ago.
We could get rid of smog. We could get rid of pollution. You wouldn't even need solar panels at this point. We could change transportation in a microsecond. The way we build homes would be completely different. The way we govern our lives would be completely different.
And all the literally hundreds of trillions of dollars in assets that are in coal, natural gas, uranium, nuclear power, public utilities, they're all obsolete. Many people would say, well, doesn't that mean the secrecy's been a good thing? I said, well, that would be like saying we should have never come out with the automobile because the horse and buggy manufacturers would have gone out of business. Or come out with computers because Royal typewriters didn't get ahead of the curve and they went out of business.
When we go outside and we look at our cars, we look at our airplanes, we're already looking at dinosaur technology. It's laughable where we are right now. We should be at least 100 years ahead of where we are right now.
And there are still files on this issue classified, top secret, from 100 years ago, for the same reasons. Because the macroeconomic order of fossil fuels, petrodollar, a handful of industrial elites and corporations be completely transformed. But the folks who actually call the shots in the multi-trillion-dollar global economy, they don't want to see that happen.
They know that if that power was, delineated to the average person, we wouldn't need them anymore.
They don't want it today, and the likes of J.P. Morgan and others back 100 years ago didn't want it.
When they found out that Tesla had passed away in the Hotel New Yorker, they came in, they had the manager of the hotel open the safe, and they took all of Tesla's papers.
And this was to the director of the FBI from the Department of Defense in a turf war trying to get that information and lock it up. This is not a contested document. This has been officially released.
A century of artificial scarcity has produced a destabilized, dehumanized, war-torn world, where the power and wealth have been transferred from the many to the hands of the few.
If you take that on, you're going to run into the mother of all buzzsaws in terms of the national security state.
Some of the breakthroughs in the past have been deliberately suppressed.
There are 5,135, I believe it is, patents that have been confiscated under national security seizures. Now, these are just the patents. And this is what happened to a lot of the huge breakthrough technologies like Stan Meyer, who had a car running on water.
A local inventor has discovered a way, hear this, to use water to run your car.
It's a major breakthrough that will no doubt make motorists happy. And as Ralph Robinson explains, the Pentagon is also showing lots of interest in this project.
A lot of people don't realize that Stan Meyer had a toroidal, a donut-shaped object that put out many times more energy than you had to put into it because it was tapping into this 0-point quantum vacuum energy field. That had a national security order on it before he even got it to patent. It was seized and shut down.
What we really had was a threat to the scientific establishment.
I view this as the greatest strategic threat to survival of the United States and, in fact, of civilization itself.
Who's going to stop this from happening? The president doesn't know it's occurring. The Congress oversight committees have no idea what's going on. And you have these people who are in the deep national security state who basically do what they want. The problem is most of these inventors think that the world's going to beat a path to their door. Unfortunately, Murder Incorporated beats a path to their door first.
But free energy technology was only one half of the equation when it came to advanced extraterrestrial technology. Early research into anti-gravity technology gained momentum in the 1940s, as Adolf Hitler poured tremendous resources into developing his secret weapon, the so-called flying bell. Once we acquired these technologies, they were augmented with the study of retrieved extraterrestrial craft, and we created our own fleet of so-called alien reproduction vehicles.
This is where Bell Labs was involved. This is where General Electric was involved. This is where a number of high-tech companies gained their knowledge.
Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, and EG&G, and Raytheon, and E-Systems, and MITRE Corporation, and Booz Allen Hamilton, and on and on and on. I know many people who've worked in these programs.
Quote, we have things flying in the Nevada desert that are 50 years beyond what you could comprehend. If you've seen it on Star Wars or Star Trek, we've been there, done that, or decided it wasn't worth the effort. So that's coming from Ben Rich. Ben Rich headed the Skunk Works between 1975 and 1991. This is the original letter from Ben Rich on Lockheed Advanced Aeronautics Company letterhead. I am a believer, and so is Kelly Johnson. And here it says, Dear Ben, there are two categories. A, man-made UFOs. B, extraterrestrial UFOs. Dear John, yes, I'm a believer in both categories. I feel everything is possible. Many of our man-made UFOs were unfunded opportunities. In both categories, there are lots of kooks and charlatans. Be cautious, Ben Rich.
We now have the technology to take ET home.
So, when I say that we have lost a century of technical development, I'm not joking. I actually believe this to be true, and these people are seriously investigating these issues, and I believe them to be correct. So as you can see, we are still dealing with a Khazarian mafia. Same people, same religion, same controllers, same breakaway civilization. Now, to make it really interesting, I will now show you some examples of craft in video format. Most of these are probably man-made, but who really knows? Could it be CGI and AI? Sure. But I collected all of this before AI actually became a thing, so we don't know what they are. We need to take everything we see with a grain of salt, obviously. But I think it will be interesting for you to watch, because it gives some context, because I've been collecting this stuff for years. So I will play these back to back. These are several little videos. I hope you enjoy.
Oh.
Seen that? You seen that come out of the clouds? Man, what was that? Hold on, Jay. I gotta rewind.
えこれ、すごいよ、この光。なんなんこれ。これ何ですかこれ。太陽か？いや、何個もあったんや、今。あれ
What is that in the sky? What is that in the sky? What the hell? What is that? That is so weird. Look at this. What the hell? There's like loads of them. Oh! What is that?
I will now play you my personal favorite, and if this doesn't blow you absolutely away, I don't know what will. Take a look at this.
Hi guys, I was terrified to post this, but I'm going to anyway. I took this shot this day because I noticed this big, long, black cloud in the sky, and I played with the lighting on it because I saw a guy on TikTok playing with the lighting on things in the sky and noticed that when I did, it still stood out. And guys, brace yourself for this. First of all, I'm going to apologize for the shaking and the glare of my filming, but I'm not techie, I'm not good with the camera, but I adjusted the lighting and decided to zoom in and film. And you guys, this is what was inside of this dark cloud in the sky on October 31st, 2022. Like, what? What is this? Do you see this? Can you guys see this? This is like, I was blown away, and I'm sorry again for the shake. I was literally shaking at what I was seeing. My eyes couldn't believe it. Look at this. Are you guys seeing this? I'm trying to get as close as possible as I can. This literally shook me to the core. This is supposed to be a cloud, guys. A cloud in the sky. Do you see? Look at this. This is absolutely unbelievable. This is like, I don't know, is it the inside of a ship? Look at all this structure. This is unbelievable. If you can zoom in even more, try to, because this looks like an entire city or maybe the inside of a ship in the sky. You're never going to look at the sky the same ever again. These dark clouds are not clouds. They are cloaked ships. Look at this. There is a whole entire world inside of here. I don't even have the words. And you guys, look at this. It's like Star Trek in our sky. And this is not the only one that's like this. I've gone through my pictures. Some of them do not have this inside. It looks a little different, and some of them are exactly like this. And this is the wildest thing I've ever seen in my life. Look at that. Oh my gosh.
So I hope you enjoyed that. I know I did. Especially that last one with the structures inside the cloud there. Who is to say that this is real or not? But you know, as I told you before, I know what I saw, and if what I saw was real, for me it's very easy to imagine that all this stuff here could be real. And even if only 10% of it is real, that's good enough for me. So let's round this up with a couple of funny little memes that I found around. And I'm going to show you here. Just for laughs, obviously. I particularly like this one on the left. What aliens do on Earth, what humans do on Mars. Yeah, I would agree. This guy saying, can we land yet? No, it's too early. At the moment they're trying to change the weather by eating bugs. Yeah, they know. Here we have an alien taking a selfie with a pilot. The one in the middle is very significant because even if they were here, we wouldn't even notice because we're too busy on our screens, right? And of course, we have to have Joe Biden. Take us to your leader. Never mind. Isn't that true? So that concludes today's episode, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for sticking with me. I hope I opened some minds with this topic as well. We will proceed with the next one called Chapter 11.2, Military Implications. So we start to get into the nitty-gritty of what this actually means to us. So I hope I'll see you there. And that's all for me today. Max out, and peace to you all.